Hey, this is Mitch and Native Survival, and today we're going to talk about winter layering concepts. So don't go away. Okay, so with layering, your most vulnerable areas are your seams. Now, the most common areas for seams are your feet, your waist, your wrists, and your neck. So we're going to start with the feet, work our way up. Alright, so you want to shingle your layers. And what I mean by that is you want to make sure that when they overlap, if cold air and snow would be on your layers, it's not going to get right to your skin immediately. And it's not going to have a direct shot. It's going to have to change directions. Alright? So, in this case, if cold air and snow were to get through my sock underneath, my insulation layer is facing this way, so the snow and cold air is going to keep going this way. It's going to have to go a whole nother direction to get to my skin. Alright? So there's three main layers. You have your base layer, your insulation layer, and your exposed outer layer. Okay? So by using, also another concept that I like to use is that by using two socks, I don't have to add a new piece of kit, a new piece of gear to my kit. You know, I don't have to have a special winter sock, anything like that. I already have this in my bag, so I just put that over what I already have, and it creates a thickness of having two socks, but I don't have to add extra gear, carry anything special just for winter. So, in this case, like I was saying, if snow goes this way and actually gets under this layer, which would be my insulative layer for my foot, it overlaps my insulative layer for my legs, but it's still going to run into more layers. Alright? Then it's going to have to go up to get to my skin. So that's key. You want to try to shingle your layers, and you want to try to change directions if you can. So let me show you the difference. Alright? So if both my socks were over like this, and snow went down my sock, it would reach my foot. And that's a problem. Okay? So that's a one direction, right to my foot. You don't want that. So by putting my first layer underneath, alright, when it gets underneath my first layer, my second layer, it's going to run into my first layer, or my base layer. So when it gets under my insulation, it still is my base as the last protection. Oh, also, one other thing that I like to add is I put my pants over my boots when there's only a few inches of snow on the ground. Say like when the snow is to about here, so 3 inches or so. If I'm walking through snow that's shin, knee, waist deep, I always tuck my pants inside my boots. Because if not, this is like a big umbrella. When I walk through thick snow, it just pushes right up inside here. I run into all kinds of problems. I'm just asking for trouble. So by tucking it inside, I'm not going to completely do it right now, I'll just give you a little demonstration here. By tucking it inside, it just gives that much more protection and forces the snow to try to wedge its way inside there. And then it's still going to run into the same problems that I've already set up before I even did that. See, it's all about situations. If it's really, really windy, then the wind's going to be busting up through here all the time, I'm going to be tucking it right in. I'm going to close that gap right up and seal the seam. But for the most part, my legs are moving all the time. They get warm. If there's any air coming up, it's actually a good thing. It keeps my core healthy and not too warm, because I don't want to start sweating. Alright, so now we're going to go over the waist. Alright, so for my waist layer, my waist seam rather, this is a critical area because it goes right to my core. Alright, so basically I have a very similar situation where I have an insulator layer, which is my sweater. Underneath I have my base layer, which is my shirt, and then my skin from there. So with my jacket, that's 3 layers over my core, and then I have my seam right here. It's a very critical seam because my jacket, my sweater, my base layer shirt, and my insulation layer for my legs, and my base for my legs, which is my underwear, all come to the same spot, and they all stop here. So I have to make sure I shingle them. It's very critical to shingle them on the waist properly, or the wind's really going to cool down my core. Okay, so it's very simple. I want the wind to go from inside my jacket, where it's going to get in, guaranteed. And I want it to run along my insulative layer, because that's my warmest layer. And I don't want to bypass it and get underneath. So I start by tucking my base layer, which is my shirt, over my insulative layer for my legs. Alright? I do the same thing with my insulative layer on my chest. So I put that over my insulative layer from my legs. So what that creates is a shingle. So when the air goes down my insulative layer here, and it runs down the seam, what's going to happen is that it's going to shingle right onto my insulative layer on my legs, and it's not going to get to my skin. And it's going to have to change direction, so it's two directions again. Alright? Instead of having everything over, if I didn't tuck anything in, all the air would just go right up into my skin. So you start tucking in, but you don't want to go underneath your insulative or your underwear, because then that's just a straight shot right to your skin. So you want to go over those layers that you wear underneath your legs, and it creates a nice shell right there. Alright, so then you cover it all up with your last outer weather barrier, and you're good to go. It protects the most vulnerable seam that you have, the most important seam, because it's right over your core, and all the seams run into the same spot. Alright, so now we're going to go over the hands and the wrists right here. Okay, so this seam is very important as well, because usually you're, grabbing materials, resources, things like that. So snow and air can get in here pretty easy because your hands move around a lot. Okay, so the first thing is I take my, see if I can show that to you guys. Take my shirt, because it's long sleeve, of course, right about there, and I tuck it underneath my first layer, my base on my hand, alright, which is like a fingerless glove here. Then I take my insulative layer, put it over, of course. Okay. And what I do is take my glove, same concept applies, put it over my insulative layer. Okay? So I get that in the frame for you guys. Okay, so now that's over my insulative layer, and then I take my jacket and seal the seam up. Alright, so again, cold air, snow gets inside. It's going to run into my insulator layer again. It's very important to have that be your first defense. It's got to keep you warm. You can't bypass this. Then it has to go through a whole nother direction to try to get to my hand. Surprise, surprise, more layers. Okay? So it's going to run this way, it's going to run into more layers, it's going to have to run back again, and then back again. Alright? So this one really is very well guarded, and it's key. It's key to have your seam solid. Okay, so my neck, I have a neck warmer right here, and it goes on top of my insulative layer. So again, cold air comes down my face, down my neck, hits my insulator layer, and it goes all the way around my neck, and it goes underneath my hat and over my ears. So it creates two layers over my ears. My hat, obviously, it's over my ears as well. Alright? So that's two layers over my neck, the back of my neck rather, and over my ears. And what this does is allows me to obviously keep my neck warm, and to pull this up in like a balaclava type of situation. Alright, so now I basically have a balaclava without having to carry that. And that's a very specialized piece of equipment. It does that very well, but that's all it really does. So this kind of gives me the option to break down my balaclava in half, maybe. So if it's not really cold, but it's still cold enough to have my hat and my other layers on, I can take this off if I'm starting to sweat. And my neck and face will be exposed. If it gets really cold, really windy, I can throw this on, and I kind of can build up or break down my balaclava in two pieces with my hat and neck warmer instead of one piece. Alright, so I just wanted to show you the neck as well and how it all ties in. It's basically the same situation where cold hits my hat, shingles onto my neck warmer, shingles on to my insulative layer. Alright, now there's one more layer I can add, and that's my hood, obviously. So if it gets really nasty out, like it was in my first Snow Scout vid, it was like 20 degrees without the wind chill, probably 35-mile-an-hour winds that day. Throw my hood on, makes all the difference in the world. Okay, well, it's been Mitch with Native Survival. Thanks for joining me today, and I really appreciate your comments, your views, and your support. And I'll see you on the next one. Take care.